Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Basingstoke is a great place to live, but there are many people who are struggling to get by, struggling to make ends meet. We believe we can do better. The people of our town and of our borough deserve a lot better. We have seen inequality growing in our borough. We have two very different Basingstokes. I want to talk to you about the Basingstoke through the eyes of the people we meet. Where you are born, where you live, really does determine your life chances, as you said, Mr. Mayor, tonight. The council signed off the joint health and wellbeing strategy this year, and it said, if you are born in Popley, you have a life expectancy almost 5 years less than people living on the other side of the A33 in Chinham. What is the budget and the council plan doing to address this? The administration talk about the success of our borough, but that is not something everyone shares in. More and more people are using the food bank. The administration needs to see the world through other people's experiences, people who would show them a different Basingstoke. We know that personal debt is a major issue in Basingstoke. It's great that we are now giving the CAB an additional £21,000 over the next 2 years to answer the phone at peak times, something that the Labour group has fought hard for alongside Councillor Stephen Day. But at the same time, the CAB have a £30,000 shortfall in their budget, and the administration has frozen their grant yet again. Meanwhile, they see an increase of 11% in their workload. And what this council spends the people's money on really matters. Why is it that this administration can use £800,000 to buy a coffee shop, but our credit union is hidden away on Riverdene, only open for a short time and isn't even on a bus route? And when they ask us to help to find a town centre location, they are told to put together a 3-year business plan and prove their sustainability. Come on. There was no business plan for the coffee shop, and if there was, we didn't get to see it. The priority for this council is not that people need more coffee shops. Whether it's housing, tackling debt, or delivering on a green agenda, there are far more important priorities that we need to be delivering on. We want to see a credit union in our town centre. This was the conclusion reached cross-party by an overview committee when our partners presented only a few weeks ago. We've got an ageing population in Basingstoke. The borough's post-retirement age population could increase by nearly 19,000 people between 2010 and 2031. We will also see a 17% increase of people with dementia, or 3,000 more people by 2015. The NHS Hampshire annual report states that the highest increase in the number of people with dementia is predicted in Basingstoke and Deane. But at the same time, Basingstoke has seen the closure of 2 residential care homes. Where is the plan in this budget and council plan to meet the housing and care needs of older people? Where is the forward thinking that links services and support for older people? An older couple in the town who are both disabled and they live in a 2-bed home. 1 bedroom has the husband's medical equipment surrounding the bed. The 2nd bedroom, his wife's. They can't actually fit the equipment around the 1 bed for both of them, and they can't sleep in the same room because of the medical condition. They have a doctor's letter to prove all of this. However, they are being charged for what the government determined is an extra bedroom. There is no compromise. Even if they move, they still need 2 bedrooms. They are in arrears, and our officers say there is nothing they can do. They ultimately could face eviction because they can't afford their home. We want a renewed emphasis on our vulnerable persons protocol to support vulnerable households. It is not wrong for this council to use its financial muscle to help solve the local housing crisis. For us, that means building council homes for rent, because we will not settle for 27 affordable homes a year. And we want a target rent for Basingstoke, one set against the real incomes of local people, not the inflated rents of landlords. It means we won't turn a blind eye to the terrible practices going on in the private rented sector. We want to license all HMOs so that we can track all landlords in Basingstoke, and yes, root out the bad ones, and also praise and celebrate good practice in the rented sector. We would introduce a mandatory licensing scheme coupled with the much tighter local standards, just as other councils do to tackle this growing problem. If we want a healthy rented sector, then regulation is important. Mr. Mayor, we want to work with our housing associations to deliver regeneration, not just of homes, but of the fabric of our communities, so that the places in which we live are better. The life chances and opportunities people have through regeneration are far more than just the physical change that we can bring about. We want a new neighbourhood renewal strategy that identifies actions we can take, working with our partners to make a difference to our communities. When it comes to building new homes as part of the local plan, who are we building the homes for? The High Court has told us that Manydown must be developed. We are pleased that all of the group leaders and the council leader came together with the work of the Chief Executive and agreed to set up a Manydown Overview Committee, which will be transparent and open to the public, enabling the people of Basingstoke, in particular residents in Winklebury and Oakley, the opportunity to see the mistakes of recent years put behind us, and us all working to fulfil the High Court judgment and to see the very best development possible on Manydown. The county has yet to pay their share of Manydown, £4.4 million. If we give county any further reason not to pay, we will undermine this budget, which assumes that we will receive this money. If this council had received this money earlier, we could have invested it over a long term and received 3% interest, not the 1.1% interest we are currently receiving. And if county had exercised their opportunity last year and paid us the money, we could have used it on other priorities. It is essential that tonight we demonstrate a confidence in our approach to Manydown and that sees the county finally pay up. If we are going to be forced by Eric Pickles and Maria Miller to sacrifice our greenfields after greenfields, it must be that we build houses to meet local need. Instead of hiding behind silly arguments about who opposed this and jibes about numbers and games and targets, targets mean nothing. The administration need to be honest with people and say, if we want economic growth, then it has consequences. The LEP is driving growth. Our economic strategy is driving growth. If we push for growth, the question is, who benefits from that growth? There is a need to tackle low wages, to root out those who exploit our young people with 0 hours contracts. Yes, it is about moral leadership. We want better for Basingstoke, better paid employment that helps raise living standards, better security in employment that offers people stability in the future. So our economic plan has to be better than just a blueprint for getting money out of the LEP. It is truly astounding that the LEP has this council claim Basingstoke is successful because the administration built a skydiving simulator. There are people in this town that cannot afford to enjoy many of our excellent facilities. Over half of all the grant funding goes to the Anvil, but there are so many people in Basingstoke that have never been. Our economic strategy cannot be just about growth for growth's sake. It's about an economic journey over the next 20 years, which includes everyone, not just a few. We have the power to support small businesses with their rates and rents. At the same time, this council and our partners, like Festival Place, are increasing rents and rates, which are forcing many SMEs out of business. Look at the number of empty shops in our town. We want our town to be a place people want to come to, that is attractive and interesting, not a high street full of banks, payday lenders and charity shops. Rather than waiting for business to tell us what they are in trouble, we need to be far more in touch with the pulse of small business in our town. We need to be far more progressive and nurturing, have a nurturing approach to the small business in Basingstoke. If we want economic success, we have to be better than just spending £500,000 on marketing. We want a living wage, apprenticeships that pay fairly. We want to stop the abuse of 0 hours contracts. We want to promote the very best of Basingstoke. Many of the same councillors who voted to increase their allowances in this budget voted against this council promoting a living wage. And we have got to be greener, better at recycling. Basingstoke creates more waste than any other borough in Hampshire, and at the same time we are one of the worst at recycling our waste. To say this year that £1 million for green infrastructure was announced, last year was announced, and it still remains unspent, is an absolute disgrace. We want investment in programs promoting home installation, renewable energy for buildings and communities, supporting community projects like Incredible Edible, would grasp the opportunity to put solar panels in our community buildings and our commercial properties. A much anticipated climate change strategy is exceptionally disappointing. Fuel poverty is a real and growing problem for many people in Basingstoke. We would introduce a cooperative energy scheme for Basingstoke, and working with our partners, help people afford the astronomical cost of fuel by buying together for communities. We need to see much more ambitious programmes, something I would like to share as a priority with the Lib Dems and independent colleagues. A truly green agenda can also mean jobs and growth in sustainable industries. We know that public transport is a major concern for so many people across Basingstoke and Deane. Last year, bus services were cut, and Stagecoach last week cut their routes again without consultation. A lone parent with 2 children in Buckskin needs to take her daughter to the doctors in Brighton Hill, as there is no doctor's surgery in Buckskin. Has to go into town and then back out to Brighton Hill. Just imagine how difficult it is to take an ill child on such a tortuous bus route around the town to get to her GP. And it cost her over £15. I met a woman in Brighton Hill this week, and she had to reduce her hours of work as she cannot get to Sainsbury's on the bus. She lost a day's work because of the lack of Sunday bus services. She lost hours of her weekly shifts because the buses have been reduced. That's someone whose income has been directly affected by the bus cuts. The cuts are having a direct economic impact on the people of Basingstoke. I think it's wrong that this administration has rewarded Stagecoach with a contract for our shuttle bus, the only competition to Stagecoach in Basingstoke. We have got to be better, because buses are a major issue for so many residents in our town. We have lost many experienced staff. In this council we see so many consultants brought in at great cost. We need to be better than that. There are capacity issues in this place, and it's affecting how we deliver services. We oppose commissioning. The recent flooding criteria has stretched the staffing levels to new extremes, but all staff have responded to these pressures. In this budget, it is probably a good time to reflect on how quickly the response and how much the cost would have been if, like some other councils, we had not had a dedicated, centrally run team, but had instead had to rely on outsourced workers who privately run for-profit companies. We want to see cooperatives, mutually run services that link our staff and their expertise and talent to our communities and their needs and aspirations. For us, commissioning is another name for competitive tendering to the lowest denominator. We have to be better than that. I know we are not the only ones on this side of the chamber who